Hello everyone! Well, it has been a while, huh? Let's just pretend the month-long break just never happened. So where were we process-wise? So the last step we talked about in creating manga is how to outline your story. Yeah. If you forgot about it, then I don't blame you. You can check out the video in the info card. Here's a rough summary. Here's the beginning, here's the ending, then you fill it up with all kind of stuff, and then you have the story. The rough outline of it, at least. So, now that that's refreshed, let's talk about the next step. The comic script. That's what I was supposed to talk about right next. Remember the comparison from the outlining video, where I said that basically the outline is the very rough sketch of your figure, and after that you fill in the details. So writing a comic script is drawing all the details. So now that you have a rough outline of your story, you know where it's heading, you know what kind of development your characters will go through. Now you can write everything that happens in between in more detail. This is where you think exactly of what you want to say through the comic and where you concentrate on the content. This way, when you start drawing, visuals are the only thing that you have to think about. So the comic script is supposed to make the process of drawing easier. A script helps you not to ramble. Through the script you can see maybe what parts are too long and what parts need more explanation. And it helps you giving each character an individual voice. And some of you might think, why are we still writing? And you don't have to do this comic script, you can go straight to storyboards or even the manga pages, as long as you have a clear concept in your head. But if you want to have something more consistent, it's probably more wise to write a comic script. There are some cases where you actually have to write a comic script, mostly when you're an author and someone else draws the story. So you have to write a comic script for the artist. And it's especially helpful to have a comic script if you have to stick to a certain amount of pages. For example, if you are drawing a story for a competition or for an anthology. After writing everything down, you can roughly say how many pages it might take you. Another good thing about the comic script is that it gives you a chance to get some feedback at an early stage. It is easier to change things here rather than when you have already drawn the storyboards or even the manga pages. So someone who reads it can tell you whether the dialogue is a little bit too stiff, too unnatural, whether some things are left unclear, or whether some dialogue is unnecessary. Just in general, getting feedback is never a bad idea. And the bonus thing that you can have from writing a comic script is to use it to help you organize yourself. For example, whenever I have written out a chapter, I mark down things that I still have to design before I start drawing the storyboard. It can be certain characters or machinery, places, tokens, all kind of things that might become important in your story. Of course, you can design all these things while you already draw the story. It would make no sense to design every little person in the background beforehand, just do them on the go. But some things that might appear again or that are important for the story in general, it's good to have them drawn out beforehand, so the design will stay consistent and you always have a reference for this certain object or place. So now that we know why you might want to do a comic script, let's talk about some things that you can take into consideration while writing your story. First, how many panels do I want on each page? It is generally suggested not to have more than 7 panels on each page. But of course it can vary. It can be more if done well. Also think about what kind of panels will need more space, what kind of panels need to have more impact because they're more important, what kind of panels can maybe be a little bit smaller because nothing too important is happening in them. Second thing to think about is the pacing. In general, the fewer panels there are on a page, the faster the pacing. Also, the text influences the pacing tons. You cannot have a quick passing scene if there is tons of dialogue. In your story, try to find a balance between action-packed scenes, which have a much faster pacing, and more calm situations where the characters are just talking. Having characters only talk to each other all the time can become pretty boring. but of course it depends on the genre as well. And on the other hand, you can have way too much action going on without a break in between, so this story can become pretty exhausting to the reader. You don't want your readers to have aged 20 years by the time they finish your story. The third point you want to think about is how much text you want to have in each panel and each page. So when you write dialogue and one person is talking, you can think about to how many panels you want to fit this text. If a person is having a monologue, sometimes it's better to split this monologue into 2 or 3 panels rather than trying to squeeze everything into one single panel, because like too long didn't read. And depending on what you show in the other panels while this one person is talking, you can create quite interesting effects. Be very careful of pages with too much text, and I know it can be difficult if you have like an important exposition scene. So because you draw a comic, try to use pictures for your advantage. Try to use them as well to kind of make your point more clear. The pictures can help you reducing the text to its core. Try not to have any unnecessary dialogue. After all, you're writing a comic, not a book. So play around with that. The dialogue you write here doesn't have to be set in stone, but it's important to know how much space roughly each speech bubble will need. If you don't plan well enough on how much a person says in each panel, you might end up with having way too much or way too little space. If there is too little space, then you will have to squeeze everything into very little bubbles, so then the text might just look not very pleasing and way too small to read comfortably. And on the other hand, if you have too much space, then you might unintentionally emphasize a phrase when you were actually not trying to do that. And for more higher level writers out there, you can even think of things like having a little cliffhangers on each page before you turn it over, or planning the most beautiful artwork in the top right corner of your book, so when someone just flips through it, they see the most pretty stuff. This is very advanced level and I would not concentrate too much on it. The most important thing is to concentrate on the flow of your story and that everything works kind of fine. Don't force it. If it doesn't work, don't do it. If you can do it, that's great. That's really a next level professional. So now, how do you write a comic script? So the most popular way to write a comic script is how you would write a screenplay. You divide the chapter into pages and panels and describe what happens in each. Have captions, dialogues, the composition, lighting, size of the panel, what kind of expression do the characters have, what angle is the camera. All this can be part of the description. There are free softwares out there. One, for example, is Celtics, which not only does the formatting for you, but also helps you keeping the whole story organized by folders. Or so I heard, because I actually never used the program, because it wouldn't be very useful for me due to my unique working progress. If you are like me, then you might just write down everything in whatever order that it happens. I personally prefer to concentrate on the dialogue at this stage of the creating process, because this is what is most difficult for me. And additionally to that, I might add certain details, like in this panel you can't see his face, or in this panel it's important to use this kind of camera angle, or this shadowing, and so on. But mostly I try to concentrate on the dialogue and the flow of the story. Thinking too much of composition and so on would distract me too much at this stage. Maybe because I cannot concentrate on too many things at once. If you are more of a planner, then you might want to make it in much more detail. And there are some people who even write their comic script almost like a book. So basically they write it down in incredible detail, trying to convey the feeling that they want to have in a certain scene. And that helps them to create the panels later. So obviously there are advantages and disadvantages to each way of working. So just, try out your thing and see what works best for you. But what if you happen to be writing only the comic script and someone else draws the story? So basically you're the author. I actually don't really have much experience with writing comic scripts for other people. Actually, I have none at all. So I decided to ask someone who does have the experience. So I got an author who can tell you all about writing comic scripts for other people.
Yes, I'm very experienced.
Yes.
Very experienced. I worked with 6 or 7 different artists, and well, in the course of 5 or 6 years. Yes.
So yeah, plenty of experience, plenty of different people. And what's your name? Introduce yourself. What did you do? Yeah.
My name is Aljoscha Jelinek. I'm an author from Hamburg, Germany. And well, I write novels, I write computer games, I write comics, and I write manga as well.
So lots of stuff. And I played some of your games. I pretty enjoyed them. They're pretty fun.
They are not my games. I helped writing them, but the main mastermind behind them was someone else. It's like a long time ago.
And when you do the script, like, what are the things that you pay attention to? Is there a way you prefer to work? Do you kind of have to adjust the way you write them according to the artist?
Depends. First, I ask the artist what kind of script do you prefer. Do you want panel to panel? Should I plan the page for you, or should I just write down the story and then you make your own stuff with it? Usually, most artists I've worked with, they prefer the panel to panel. So I describe what we see in every panel. Yeah. And
so it's pretty detailed then.
Yeah, it's pretty detailed. But it's even if it is pretty detailed. So I have like page 1, panel 1. Usually it's an establishing shot. Then panel 2, introducing of the main protagonist and stuff like that.
Right.
And then I write the dialogue of the script. The way I work, I usually have dialogue first, and then I think how can I...
similar to me. I also prefer to first think of the dialogue and then of the surroundings and what happens.
Yeah, and that's like usually I finish the script, and then I send it to the artist, and then he tells me if he likes it or not, what he wants to change. And yeah, that's the first step of any story.
Okay. Would it be possible to work together with an artist without a script? Let's say, like, you don't write a script at all. Is it possible?
For me, it will be tough, but there are like different methods of script writing.
Right.
Usually, most people know the Marvel way of writing and the DC way of writing. The DC way of writing is like panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. And the Marvel way of writing, like Stan Lee, it's just like, and Jack Kirby worked, it was just an outline of the story, maybe 1 or 2 pages.
So there's much more freedom.
Yeah, there's much more freedom, and that's why the pages of the Marvel stories back then looked more dynamic, because the artist was more able to freely express themselves compared to the DC method.
Literally constrained, like...
Yes, but it is possible just to make like 1 page of the story or 10 lines, and then you sit together with the artist and then you do the storyboard. Which I have to say, the most important phase of collaboration between artist and writer is the storyboard phase. That's where the hard work is done. So if you wanna work with an author, or if you wanna do your own story, the storyboard is your most important thing.
Well, thank you for giving us your advice.
Thank you.
Telling us about your experiences.
Thank you for having me in your studio.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
See ya.
See ya.
Thanks, Aljoscha, and thanks for your patience, because it took me way too long to get to this video. We filmed this actually months ago. I will be uploading the whole interview separately to my channel. So if you are an author, or maybe if you are thinking about working with an author, then the video might be interesting for you. Anyways, I hope that this video was kind of helpful to you, and if not, tell me in the comments. So in the last few months I actually published the 2nd edition of the 1st volume of my manga Another Me, which I'm really happy about. And by now pretty much almost 6 chapters are online, so check it out. I'm hoping to get around to printing the 2nd volume around next year, but no one knows what's gonna happen. I do have all the comic scripts for 2nd volume though. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your tea and enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next video.